Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 10 of our 1986 F1 series, coming to you from the Hockenheimring in Germany. I am Jason White. I'll be your play-by-play announcer for this evening. The drivers have just completed their qualifying session and they are now in the warm-up. Let me run down the top 10 for you as time expired. So no big surprise in pole position. We have Jules Bouchard in his Lotus Renault in a time of 1 minute 41.954. But here's a surprise, an interesting development. In second, on the outside of the front row, is Tim Hilla with a time of just a little over a second slower than Jules Bouchard. I believe this is the first time that we've had a Benetton BMW on the front row. I could be wrong, but anyway, that will make the start very interesting. And then in third, we have John Thiem. Fourth is Grant Riddall. Fifth, Ray Riddall, who was trying to better his time on his 10th lap and had a hellacious accident at the Ostkurve chicane, which basically ended his chance to move up the grid. But he starts fifth. Richard Coxon in the other Benetton starts sixth. Gabriel Del Piccolo starts seventh. Eighth is Juha Boss. Ninth, Francisco Amaral. And 10th, David Saber. That's the top 10 heading into today's race. Let's take a look at what's going on out on track here. There we can see Grant Riddall putting his Brabham through the paces, getting set for the start of this race. Obviously, speed is going to be the operative term on this Sunday. And Grant has a car that's uniquely suited to this track. It's long and low and built like an arrow, and certainly suited for this type of track. We'll talk more about that as the day develops. Sure. So it's an interesting coincidence. We just wrapped up our 1980 Pro Car Series last week at Avus, and that's a German circuit famous for high speeds and very technical chicanes. And here we are the following week, and we're at another German circuit also famous for its high speeds and technical chicanes. So just an odd coincidence. The Hockenheimring first hosted the German Grand Prix in 1970, and that was a race that was moved there following the F1 driver demands for safety improvements at the Nürburgring. Jochen Rindt won the race that year, 1970, on his way to his posthumous championship. After Niki Lauda's near-fatal accident at the ring in 1976, the Hockenheimring took over for the venue of the German Grand Prix until 1985, and that was when the new Nürburgring was unveiled in place of the old Südschleife. The series returned to the Hockenheimring in 1986, and that's where we find ourselves now, on this circuit, about 4.2 miles around. It's a cathedral of speed, no question about that. So, key to a good lap time around this track is obviously a whole lot of brake horsepower, but just as important are the latest possible braking points of the chicanes, as well as clean as possible a chicane exit as you can get. These will help ensure that you have the highest terminal velocity in the long straights. Brake bias is another thing that's key, and that you want to have tuned exactly right, because looking at the circuit, you can see how it's surrounded by Armco, and if you have the braking bias not tuned exactly right, there's not a lot of room for you when the car goes slightly off kilter if the braking bias isn't quite right. There's nowhere for it to lurch to without getting onto the grass. So you want to try to avoid that as best you can. The Ostkurve chicane, which is at the very far right of the circuit you see on your screen, it's similar to the old Monaco chicane, a little flick left and right. And on its face, it probably seems simple enough, but trust me, it's not. This is where a simple miscommunication with another driver or a missed braking point can lead to utter disaster. We're all familiar with the hilarious incident that took place between Piquet and Salazar at this track, and then Piquet gets out of his car. He was leading at the time, I believe. So angry for the miscommunication with Salazar that he got out and engaged in a kickboxing match with him, which you can find on YouTube. It's quite hilarious. But in any case, the Ost curve is a part of the track that is not to be taken lightly. So something that everybody should pay very close attention to. Drivers have to be very careful setting up for this portion of the track. Another thing to consider, these cars have to be trimmed out aerodynamically for the long, long straights so you can get the most speed. And that creates an interesting problem when you get to the stadium section, which is on the far left side of there, where it snakes back and forth. There's a big stadium there, full of fans, and that's pretty much the only place you can watch the race. There aren't a lot of spots inside the forest. It's mainly just marshals in there, making sure everything is attended to properly, not spectators. So, when you enter the stadium section, the cars tend to drift and slide through there due to their lack of downforce, and that can catch a driver unawares if they're not careful, but it makes the racing action there quite interesting. And one final point about this track, it's surprisingly narrow for its length, and when you're sprinting through the forest at about 200 miles per hour, dropping a wheel onto the grass is not a favorable situation at all. So the drivers will want to look far down the road to try to keep themselves from wandering to the edge of the track at high speed. So that's definitely something to keep track of when you're running this circuit. One of many things. Taking a look around here, seeing who's on track. There's Schlipinski and his Ford-powered Lola. I believe they're Ford at this point. Yes, the blue oval is very visible there on the rear wing. You can see it. David Saber. There's John Team in one of the Ligiers. And last time out at Brands Hatch, Oscar Team, his brother, made up for a miserable first half of the series by scoring his first ISO win. It was a very popular victory and one that he was very happy about. Today he'll be looking to back up that win with another stellar performance, and we'll certainly be keeping our collective eyes on him and the person on screen now, his Ligier teammate, John. Several teams will be looking to bounce back in this race, most notably Lotus and Brabham, who scored no points at Brands Hatch, and the Ferrari team, which only came away with 1 point. Midfield teams will definitely be looking to capitalize in this race on any attrition at the front. Because obviously attrition will be a consideration here. The engines will be pressed to the absolute limit. And another big story here, fuel usage is going to be a big concern. There's going to be a lot of lift and coast here from a lot of people. And if you look at the history of this race, especially around this time, there were cars that didn't make it to the finish line. They ran out of fuel with about 1 or 2 laps to go. There's that famous incident, I think it was 86, where Prost pushed his car to the line a la Ralph De Palma. But it is a very real possibility here that drivers could run out of fuel, because you're not only are you driving really fast and eating up a lot of fuel that way, you have to slow down for the chicanes and then speed back up again, and that in turn takes a lot of fuel to do that. So we're going to be watching cars very closely towards the end of the race to see who has managed their fuel consumption the best. We may be surprised. Info from Coxon on this race. Any compound can do the full race distance expect super softs and softs. Pit stops, 1 to 2 maybe. The fuel is obviously going to be tight, like we mentioned. And brakes, if there isn't enough cooling, there could be an issue, but everybody should be okay. We'll go through car updates, too, as the race progresses, because that's definitely going to have a impression on what we see here today in the German Grand Prix, or if you like, the Große Preis von Deutschland. So let's see if we can get somebody here who's about done with a lap, and we can go on a lap here. Let's see. Here's Oscar Team, actually, a winner of the last race, and let's see if he's going through into the stadium section now, and let's see if he takes us for a ride one more lap or he goes to the pits. This section here is helped. I mentioned the cars have little downforce through here, but they are helped by a little bit of banking in this section. You can see it right there. All right, so this is all right, there we go. So now we're on board with Oscar team, starting a lap, and you're in the big stadium section here. Now downshifting into this fast right-hand bend, and this takes you out into the forest. This is where there are no spectators. Oh my goodness, Oscar gets, oh no, oh shoot. All right, I guess we're gonna have to look for somebody else, but you see what happens there when you get offline and onto the grass. You can't do that. It's a very serious concern. So keep that in mind. Let's see if there's anybody else here. Okay, here's some cars coming towards the stadium section now. That's Anders Nilsson flying into the second chicane. And we'll see if, well, maybe there's someone who's closer. Okay, here we go. Here's Grant. No, okay, Grant Riddall, but he already crossed the line. Let's see. This is John probably right here. Yes, it is. Okay, here's Del Piccolo. Let's see if he takes us for another lap here in his Brabham BMW. Gabriel qualified in 7th place, matching the number on his car. Convenient. All right, here we go. Exiting the last turn and onto the main straight here, or the pit straight. Crossing the line. And now Gabriel is going to set it for the first turn. Dipping in here, downshifts, lose a little bit of... Oh, goodness! God, nobody wants to go for a full lap. Well, we'll take Sabre. Okay, Sabre is now on a full lap. He just exited turn 1. And this is the long straight, the first one, heading down to the first chicane, which is a right-left combination. And he puts on the brakes at about the 100 marker there. Right, left, into the chicane, and now you want to get a really clean exit here. There he goes. Down the next straight, which is going to lead to the Ost-Curve chicane. Now, the Ost-Curve chicane, as we mentioned, is very, very tricky. You want to brake at the exact right point, and you have to flick left and right. And here it comes. If you blink, you'll miss it. Left, right. There it is. Now, that seemed simple enough, but if you get it wrong and you touch those tire barriers, it's sayonara for the race, believe me. So now he's heading along the backside of the course to the third chicane. This one is a left-right combination. And it can be taken relatively quickly if you position the car right and you choose your shut-off point at the right time. Now, this straight here is going to lead us back to humanity. You can see the forest clearing, and now we are into, with this right-hander, the stadium section. You can see a mass of people in here. Looks like a soccer match, or football, excuse me, for those of you in Europe. And this is the section that the lack of downforce can play havoc with the driver. But you can see that the car is seems to be handling it well. The banking does help a little bit. Now Sabre exits the final right-hand turn here, and there's that familiar Mobil 1 bottle. And that is one lap of the Hockenheimring. 4.2 miles around. Let's take a moment here to take a look at the drivers' standings going into today's race. We are at round 10 of this championship. And here are the standings as of right now. Jules Bouchard is in the lead by with 42 points, but it's not as big of a lead as he's had before. Juha Boss is in second with 30 points. Jonathan Asserklint is in third with 27 points. Ray Rodal is in fourth with 21 points, and then you have John Team entering the top 5 with 20 points. Looking at the constructor standings, it's a bit more interesting here. Scuderia Ferrari in the lead with 57 points. John Player Special Team Lotus is in second with 49 points. Marlboro McLaren International is in third with 38 points. Equipe Ligier is in fourth with 29 points. And Motor Racing Development is in fifth with 19 points. So Ferrari is really cleaning up right now as a constructor, but the man to beat is still Jules Bouchard. And I think it's really, really interesting that we're going to have him starting on pole. Well, that in itself is not so unusual, but we're going to see him go up against a Benetton for the first time on the front row. So that is interesting. You will notice also on these cars there are no tobacco sponsors. It's against the law in Germany to have tobacco sponsors at a major event like this, Défense des Fumeurs. So you're going to see, in the case of the McLaren here, you just see a bunch of black rectangles where there should be the word Marlboro. Other teams are a bit more cheeky with their the way that they handle the West cigarettes here for Zaxby's, but they say East instead, so they're being a bit cheeky. Everybody knows what it's supposed to say. It's kind of funny. It's like those curb markings that you see on circuits like Zandvoort, which are very clearly Marlboro chevrons. And it doesn't say Marlboro, but you know what it means, just because the logo is so identifiable and so iconic. So this is Michael Drexler here, getting warmed up in his Zaxby's. It'll be interesting to see how drivers that are midfield usually do in this race, because if there's a lot of attrition, there may be the chance for them to sprint up the order. They may be far behind on the track, but they may actually finish well on the chart when we're done. We'll see what happens in that case. Yes, hello to Barry Lennon, hello to Mark Whitman, who is also in the chat here saying hello. Yeah, this is a very interesting race. I mean, you could look at Hockenheim and say to yourself, well, this is a circuit that has no soul. And certainly in the shadow of the Nürburgring, that would be the case. But it's legendary for different reasons. It's legendary for its speed. It's legendary for its precision that it demands from the cars and how much fuel it demands. So it's not like this is going to be a cakewalk, just drive flat out until the finish. These drivers are going to be working very hard. So hopefully they'll put on an excellent show for us today. And hopefully the first lap will be clean. As I've mentioned before, the circuit itself is surprisingly narrow, and it's very easy, especially on lap 1, to get a tire off onto the grass. And as we saw, I think that was with the John team, you know, that can make the car unstable instantly, just right away. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how people handle the narrowness of the track, especially when they're overtaking. Even after lap 1, it's still going to be perilous. So let's give you the trivia question that we have for you, so you have something to ponder while the warm-up is finishing here. Trivia question is, Ferrari won the German Grand Prix a record of 22 times. Which constructor is second to Ferrari with 11 German Grand Prix wins? Is it A, Williams, B, McLaren, or C, Mercedes? We'll have the answer later in the broadcast. Coming up at ISO, the next round. Round 11 for this 1986 F1 series. I'm not even going to attempt to say that. Just suffice to say, it's the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring. That's round 11 of 16, Sunday, July 9th. The race should start at 2000 CEST, but we, of course, start our broadcasts at 1945. All right, it sounds like we're going to the race session now. Great timing. We will advance to the front row here, and Bouchard is eventually going to make his appearance. And this is one of those situations where you would want to get on the grid at the very last possible moment because you want to save fuel and you want to save engine life, because there is a bit of variability built into these mods where it comes to engine life. And we're always super concerned about that when we do 500-mile races, but it's going to be a concern here for as much as we're taxing the engines. So I'll take you through the grid once they're off on their sighting or reconnaissance lap, and then we'll be underway, hopefully very soon, in the German Grand Prix. Of course, if anybody drops out or loses a connection, they're probably going to give us another warm-up that's happened in the past, but right now it appears that everybody is good and trim. Don't see anybody dropping out quite yet, so we'll see what happens once the cars edge away for their sighting or reconnaissance lap. Welcome to everybody who's joining us on YouTube. We very much appreciate your loyalty and your watching of our races. We enjoy putting on a good show for everybody. It's not just the driving, it's also the presentation that we're keen on, and we try to do a little better every time we do it. Okay, off we go on the reconnaissance lap. On the pole, Jules Bouchard, John Player Special, Team Lotus. In second, we believe it's the first time that we've had a Benetton on the front row this season. Tim Hilla, Benetton Formula. Third is John Team, Equipe Ligier. Fourth, Grant Riddall, Motor Racing Developments. Fifth, Ray Riddall, Marlboro McLaren International. Sixth, Richard Coxon, Benetton Formula. Seventh, Gabriel Del Piccolo, Motor Racing Developments. Eighth, Juha Boss, Scuderia Ferrari. Ninth is Francisco Amaral, Cannon Williams Honda Team. 10th is David Saber, Marlboro McLaren International. 11th, Oscar Team, the latest winner in this series, Equipe Ligier. 12th is Jonathan Asserklinth, Scuderia Ferrari. 13th is Anders Nilsson, Team Haas USA. 14th, Cesare Slipinski, Team Haas USA. 15th, Giovanni Centorami for Data General Team Tyrrell. 16th, Brian Janik for West Zaxby Racing. Nice to see him back. He's been absent a couple of times. 17th, Dario Apa or Appa. I'm not entirely sure how to say his name. I'm going to say Appa, I guess. Minardi Team. And in the other Minardi car, 18th is Dave Miller. 19th on the grid, Luciano Rocha. In the other John Player Special Team Lotus. It's a pretty big delta between the leading Lotus and the second one. 20th, Bruno Chacon, Barclay Arrows BMW. 21st, Mikael Drexler, West Zach Speed Racing. 22nd, Ruben Fernandez, Jolly Club AGS. 23rd is Fernando Portero, which I believe is a one-off in the Cannon Williams Honda entry number 5. 24th, Matthew Sibignani, Data General Team Tyrrell. 25th, Simon Watman, Ocella Squadra Course, and rounding out the field in 26th position is Mark Whitman in the Barclay Arrows BMW number 18. That is your grid. Mark Whitman commenting that he's very good on fuel, so he doesn't see any problems there. It's going to be different for different teams. I mean, different cars have different fuel consumption. And if history tells us anything, the McLaren team may be in trouble. But, we really don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens here. Bouchard weaving back and forth, trying to get heat in those Goodyears. And they are now on the backside of the course, having already gone through the chicane. You can see it back there. And the cars will be entering the stadium section next. And after a few turns left and right, we should be getting set for the start of the German Grand Prix. Bouchard dominating a lot of this series, but we're starting to see other cars and other drivers come to the fore, most notably Oscar Team in the last race. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for him as it's appeared in previous races. But here comes Bouchard now. He is getting into position on the grid next. He'll be starting to the outside, actually. I guess the wisdom there is that an outside line is better to take the first corner, even though the first corner is a right-hand turn. But he's taking up his position in a second here. Tim Hilla will be starting alongside him. And I'm going to change to a different shot here that will give us a little bit more of a view of what happens when the start occurs. There we go. So drivers are filing in at the back here, and as soon as all cars are stationary, we'll see the name of Jules Bouchard there flicker in the corner. And once that happens, we're under starters orders. Last cars pulling into their grid slots, and I believe we have starters orders. There it is, right there. All right, stand by for the start of the German Grand Prix. And the race is underway. Good getaway by Bouchard, but look at John Team. He's getting in front, actually, as they head to the first turn. John Team is in front, Bouchard second. Hilla is in third place as they head now out into the forest. So a great start by John Team. That was not what we expected at all. The cars look to be doing okay as they head onto the straightaway here. And Bouchard now is finding himself in second place, and maybe he can counterattack here, but he's already got Grant Riddall behind him. Into the first chicane. John Team is in first. Not something that we would have expected. The car's all headed through. Doesn't look like too much well, a little bit there, a little bit of contact, but everybody looks okay, which is great to see. Team sprints down He's in first. Jules Bouchard in second. Here we go into chicane. Hopefully everybody will be okay. John Team's in first. Jules Bouchard's in second. Grant Riddall third. Ray Riddall fourth. Gabriel Del Piccolo has jumped 2 places. He is in 5th. 6th is Tim Hilla. 7th, Richard Coxon. 8th is Oscar Team. Oh, David Saber is fighting with Oscar Team. Here's an aerial shot of John Team. He is looking really good so far. That was an excellent start. But he doesn't have very far back to second place there. Jules Bouchard and then Grant Riddall. This is shaping up to be a really exciting battle. As we look further back here, Gabriel Del Piccolo is trying to size up David Saber. I'm sorry, not David Saber. Ray Riddall. That's right. It's Ray Riddall as they head into the stadium section for the first time. The cars are full of fuel. The tires are not up to operating temperature yet, so it's going to be very interesting to see who can hang on to the car. I think everybody's doing a good job here. Looking at the cars as they go through the stadium section, that banking really does help quite a lot. But John Team is actually opening up a slight gap here. He is 1.614 seconds ahead of Jules Bouchard. Grant Riddall third. Ray Riddall fourth. Gabriel Del Piccolo is in 5th. Tim Hillett is 6th. 7th is Richard Coxon. 8th, David Saber. 9th, Shazarius now. Slipinski in 9th. And Centorami is in 10th. First chicane once again. Everything looking good so far. As the cars head through the chicane. It's a tight cluster of cars there battling for second, third, and fourth. And then you've got a Benetton sandwich with Saber in the middle there. So it's not the start that Benetton would have liked to have. But we'll see what happens as the race progresses. Of course, we're only on the first lap out of 44. Second lap now out of 44. Here are the cars coming through the chicane. You can see what a narrow corridor it is there. You're aiming for a very specific spot, and with the speed these cars generate, quite possible that you can get it wrong if you're not careful. Mental fatigue is another thing we haven't talked about that will definitely play a role in this race. And you don't need mental fatigue when you're trying to aim for a chicane and get it exactly right. But John Team leads after his brilliant start. Grant Riddall is in second. Third is Jules Bouchard. Fourth is Ray Riddall. And then fifth is Gabriel Del Piccolo, looking from his point of view at Ray Riddall, who runs a bit wide, and there goes Gabriel up to fourth place. So that is going to be one way that you advance yourself around here, taking advantage of other people's problems. But Gabriel up to fourth there, just taking advantage of Ray running a bit wide. It's easy to run wide at that corner entering the stadium section because there's extra tarmac there. It's tempting to try to take it faster than you should. So Gabriel up to fourth position. Ray Riddall down to fifth. Tim Hilla coming under attack from David Saber here. Heading into the first turn. You can see the flash of fire from Tim's car. And now Saber will try to get a slipstream on Tim Hilla here, but it looks like Tim might be countering here with the boost. We'll see what happens. Oh, Saber definitely has a roll. He's going to the outside, which is not the preferred place to be, but he motors on by. Now, can he get it to stick before the chicane? Yes, he can. David Saber up to sixth place. Very good textbook move from David Saber. That puts, oh my goodness, but a good exit by Hilla here. Hilla's going to look to counterattack. I'm sure he's not too thrilled with his start, being all the way down in seventh place after starting on the front row. Hear that BMW engine screaming as they head down to the Ostkurve chicane. Downshifting now. Left, right. Getting a clean exit here is important, obviously. Saber pulling out quite an advantage here as they head into this chicane is a left and right one and can be pretty fast if you set it up right. If you don't set it up right, you're going backwards really quickly. That's another thing to think about. Now back here, take a look at this. We've got Slipinski, who might have a problem. He's giving up positions here. That was Boss going into ninth place. It's kind of weaving back and forth a little bit. I don't know if he has an issue with the car or what, but that was Juha taking ninth place from Cesarius. having a look from his car with the blue foam steering wheel. Heading through the stadium section here. And he is being followed closely by his teammate, Anders Nilsson, in 11th place. Into the stadium section once again. And maybe Nilsson is going to try to pass his teammate here. He has a look, but he decides better of that. He's just going to hang back there a little bit and wait and see what happens. The team still leads. Grant Riddall. Oh, Jules Bouchard has dropped to third. Let's see what happened there. Replay. Well, Jules Bouchard's actually been in third, that's true, but it looks like he's about to come under attack from Gabriel Del Piccolo. This is a replay here, and there goes Del Piccolo right by in the replay, but no, Bouchard's not going to have anything of it. Yeah, there's a bit of a flicker there where he was briefly, Del Piccolo was in third, but now he's dropped back to fourth. So this is an interesting battle to watch here between Bouchard, series leader, and Del Piccolo, who's driving arguably the best designed car for this race. And look at Del Piccolo close on the straight. He is pulling out to pass right now and takes third place decisively from Jules Bouchard. Jules goes back in the inside, but that's really not the best place to counterattack. So now you have Brabham's running in second and third respectively. And we talk, oh my goodness, Bouchard gets his car onto the grass. He's not going to want to do that too much. Actually, Bouchard, he might be having a ping issue there. It looks okay now, but he's sliding around quite a lot. He may have some kind of a ping issue going on. In any case, he's down to fourth, and he's going to fall into the clutches of Ray Riddall next if he's not careful. But we have the two Brabhams running second and third, and I'm not surprised by that at all, and neither should you be, because these cars are uniquely suited for a track like Hockenheim. They're very low, they're very long. They have a very low profile. They make a small hole in the air, and they're uniquely suited to the circuit. The BMW is a powerful engine, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see a Brabham victory here today. He's definitely closing on John now as they head for that. And look at that, he's alongside him. Is he going to take the lead? It appears he will. He's got good placement. Yes, Grant Riddall goes into the lead, and John Teams goes back to second place. Let's take a look at that in a replay from the point of view of, he just motors right by. It was boost combined with slipstream, and then downshifts. He actually enters that corner quite slower than he probably could under normal circumstances, but he gets it done and goes into first place, Grant Riddall. So an interesting race so far, how it's developing. The cars that are best suited and drivers perhaps that are best suited to this race are coming to the front. Not to take anything away from John, that was a fantastic start. But looking back now at Jules, he's definitely going to come under attack from the McLaren team in the second here. That is Ray Riddall in the Marlboro McLaren International number 2, and David Saber is in number 1 just behind him. Let's have a look here from the wing of Jules Bouchard. And you can see Ray is closing slowly, but I don't think he's going to attempt an overtake here. Into the stadium section. And now we're heading back towards the left. See the wall of humanity there. This is the only place where they can watch the race. They can't watch it in the forest. The forest is for drivers and marshals only, and TV cameras, obviously. Now onto the main straight. So two McLarens hounding Jules here, so he has to be on his best behavior. And oh my goodness, there's a yellow flag here. I'm not sure what that's for. Looks like a car off the track. Let's see. I can't see it now, but apparently there was some instance of a car going off there. In any case, getting back to the race, here is Ray now definitely setting up Jules. Let's see if he can take him before they get to the next chicane. He's definitely got the speed. Bouchard takes a little bit of an offensive posture, and it's just enough to keep him behind. Grant Riddall leads, John Team in second, Gabriel Del Piccolo is third, fourth is Jules Bouchard that you're watching now being hounded by Ray Riddall in fifth, sixth is David Saber, seventh Juha Boss, eighth is Tim Hilla, ninth Richard Coxon, And here I think this is definitely not the place you want to try this. No, you do not want to try and overtake in the Oss curve unless you are absolutely sure. And it looks like Jules had a slow exit from the Oss curve there. Ray may be able to counterattack here. He certainly has a roll on him. There he goes, alongside and past him. Ray Riddall goes into 4th place. Bouchard down to 5th. Now can his teammate, Ray's teammate, capitalize? Yes, he can. It looks like it. Yes, David Sabre slots into 5th place. Has a little bit of a slow, tardy exit there, though, from the chicane. Perhaps Jules Bouchard can counterattack. It looks like he's trying to, but to no avail. So the McLaren team collectively moves up, and they'll be interesting to watch. I think they're a car, too, that's uniquely suited to this track. The car naturally understeers. It's not a nervous car. So, and that was one of the things historically that Keke Rosberg, if I'm right, complained about the car. The car was really designed for drivers like Prost and Lauda. And he was more of a driver that liked to throw the car into the corner, and it just didn't suit his driving style. But for those people who like a really smooth car that's going to be predictable to drive and fast at the same time, the McLaren is definitely the order of the day. So there we see David Sabre, and Jules looking for a way to get by him, but he's got some distance to make up there. So Grant Riddall continues to lead, and Jules isn't dropping, John Team is not dropping back too much. He's still within sight. And then we have the second Brabham. The thing I think that John has to be concerned about is the second Brabham. Time in the pits obviously is going to be critical. It's critical at any race, but here, when you take your pit stop and what tires you take on is probably going to have a huge impact on who's where towards the end of this race. Now, John is trying to maintain that gap with Grant Riddall. And so far, he's doing okay. The top 3 are staying in contact with each other. It's the 4th, 5th, and 6th drivers that are starting to fall back a little bit. Ray having cleared Jules Bouchard, so did David. So now they're going to try to hunt down this group. But it's going to be tough because they've about lost the slipstream. I don't think they can have any effect of slipstream from how far back they are. We'll see. But look at how much the cars go off onto the side there. They're allowed to do that. To get a fast entry into the stadium section. It's a very, very tricky thing to do, and if you do it right, it can definitely gain you some time. But if you do it wrong, good grief, you're in trouble. So let's watch from the cockpit of John Team for a second here as they enter the start-finish straight. Grant Riddall just ahead in 1st place. 3rd is Del Piccolo, his teammate, which is right behind our vantage point right here. The other thing you don't want to do on these long straights is miss a shift for the simple thing that will be like opening a parachute, and it will cause people to go by you, and it will cause undue stress to the engine, which is already being taxed to the limit in this race. You don't want to have to make that any worse than it is. It looks like the cars are coming up in lap traffic already, so that could throw a spanner, as Jonathan might say, into what's going on here. We'll see. Grant has to handle up one of the... yes, it's Simon Watman. And Simon is making room, being a good gentleman, gets out of the way. Heading now down to the Oss curve. Have to downshift to just the right point. Through here, left, right. Executes it very well. Nice driving from John and from Grant. Del Piccolo got through as well. If someone's going to make a mental mistake in this race, it's likely going to be at the Oss curve chicane. Fernando Portero is out of the race, unfortunately. Not sure what happened there, but we're keeping our eyes here on the lead because this is where most of the action is. Grant Riddall in 1st, and it looks like John is starting to get a second wind here, maybe looking to overtake him here for the lead. We'll see what happens. Into the stadium section. And Del Piccolo's not dropping back. He's right there with John. So John's got a difficult situation being in a Brabham sandwich. He's got to decide, obviously he'd like to take the lead back. Being stuck between these two Brabhams is probably not the best of situations, but the question is, where is he going to do it? We'll keep an eye on him, see what happens. So into lap number 9 now. This race, by the way, is probably going to go by very fast because they're moving at such speed. This is going to be one of the shorter races we have on the calendar. Heading now down to the first chicane. There's more lap traffic now in front of Grant that he has to deal with, but through the chicane he goes. Makes it through pretty good. You can see the cars wiggle a bit there. The lack of downforce would be the reason why. Looking from John Team's car once again. Into the Ost curve chicane. Now the other thing that's dangerous about this, and you saw it right there, Bruno locked up his brakes. Now, if someone makes a mistake in the Ost curve, you don't want to become an unwitting party to that accident, as it looks like John is definitely, he's hanging with Grant, but I think Grant is using his boost just a little bit there to ensure that he's going to get to the chicane first. But John is, oh my goodness, no, John must have impacted a tire barrier there. He hits another one, he is out of the race. Oh, that's too bad. John has lost his right front, and that is sayonara for the race. John Team is out of the German Grand Prix. He's continuing on, which he really should not be doing, because that is not something that they can repair. Let's take a look at a replay of what happened here. He lost his front wing. Oh, I see what happened there. If you look very closely, he clips the tire barrier on the opposite side, spins, and then the right front tire impacts with the suspension. And he's very lucky, actually, that everybody was able to get by, but what a disaster for John Team. So he is obviously falling down the order. Now, he really, that is not something that they can repair in the pits, and the stewards may very well have a word with John after this race is over for driving the car with 3 wheels. Gilles Villeneuve famously did that at Zandvoort in 1979, but I don't think that's going to be looked favorably upon here. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can fix this, but he's not going to have much help if he clouts the barrier again there. John enters the pit lane. He's now down to 11th place, and he's just going to keep falling down. And he actually spins the car around, trying to get to his pit box, but I'm quite certain that they cannot fix the damage that he has incurred. We'll see what happens here. But this is really unfortunate after having such a fantastic start. And there he probably realizes that, well, wait a minute. Okay, this is interesting. He's got another tire on there. All right, I'm going to eat my words. That was not the end of the race for John. He does have the ability to put another tire on there, because I thought I saw suspension flying. In any case, it appears he'll be able to rejoin the race, but he's going to be far, far down the order. All right, so let's get... Oh, it looks like Michael Drexler has had a problem. Yes, he has. He's impacted the barrier there. This looks to be the stadium section. Yeah, it is. So that's not a good development for the Zakspeed team, but in this case, he's only lost a wing, so maybe he's already a lap down, but we'll see what happens. He's got to get back to the pits. It looks like he has more than just a wing missing there. It looks like he might have a flat tire or suspension damage. But we'll see what happens there as he gets to the pit lane. Out of the race so far, Fernando Portiero, Dario Epa, Matthew Sibignani also out of the race, and Oscar Team was out very early. We didn't see what happened there, but that's too bad. Coming off of a victory, he's going to finish last in this race. That's really too bad. So here, with John Team out of the picture, it is now a Brabham show at the front, and Del Piccolo has taken the lead from his teammate. This happened a lap ago. So Del Piccolo definitely has the speed to overtake his teammate here. We'll see what goes on here. I don't know if there are any team orders in the Brabham camp, but they're going to pass one of the cars here. This is the AGS of Ruben Fernandez. And hopefully he gets by before the chicane. He does. No, Fernandez, don't make room there because it's not going to work. Okay, now he makes room. Good job. Both Brabhams get by. So Del Piccolo now in first place. And Grant is in second, apparently content to ride there for the moment. Third, Ray Radal. Fourth, Jules Bouchard, but he is being hounded by Juha Boss now, who is extended to fifth after all these developments. Is he going to overtake him here as they get to the chicane? He's kind of in the wrong place to do so. Maybe he can do it. Yes, he does! Juha Boss takes over fourth place. That was a very skillful maneuver there. Excellent, really, very, very well executed would be the best way to put it. Juha Boss trying to make sure that he doesn't get a counterattack, but now the person who really should be watching his mirrors is Bouchard, because Sabre, the winner of the first race of the season, looks like he's sizing up Lotus. Coming into the start-finish area. You can see there's David Sabre. You really can't. You have minimal opportunity to have an overtake here. The best bet really is to have an overtake here. Now you saw there was a little bit of a not so tidy exit there, and look at that. There goes David Sabre right by into fifth place. He took advantage of a slightly untidy exit by Jules at turn one there, and that was all he needed to slip by. Small mistakes become magnified on a circuit like Hockenheim. It's a place where you definitely don't want to make any mistakes. I mean, you never want to make any mistakes at any track, but small mistakes can be amplified here by a lot. So Sabre is now in fifth place, and Jules looks like he's trying to counterattack, but Sabre is taking a very wise defensive posture into the Ost curve here as a downshift, and you can see Juha Boss just ahead in fourth place. Everybody gets through cleanly. Lipinski says that he was a victim of the Ost curve chicane, and that's why he's out of the race. So, very unfortunate for him. And now we go into the second chicane, or actually this would be the third chicane, and you can see how this one is a bit more of a flowing one than the first chicane. Jules all the way down to sixth place now. So this is going to provide an interesting shakeup in the points fight if things go the way they're going here, with a lot of people coming to the front that are challenging Jules. It'll definitely serve to make their cause better, and it will give us some more interesting points situations going into the end of the series. Boss heading through the last corner now, and he is being followed closely by Sabre, but it looks like Boss has fourth place pretty solidly now. Sabre is close behind, but Boss looks pretty confident through here. And if you're wondering where the other Ferrari is, Jonathan Asselklint is in 10th place right now, 22 seconds back from what we're seeing here. But he's another one who could go up the list. I'm not at all surprised to see the McLarens doing well at this circuit for the reasons I mentioned before. But here it comes, Boss and Sabre, and it looks like it's going to stay the way it is. Now, Juha ran up the curbing there. Is that going to cost him any? No, it doesn't appear so, but you don't want to really engage the curbs here at Hockenheim, because they can lead to some really awkward situations and can slow you down. So Juha got away with something there. It could have gone a little bad, actually. If not a little, but a lot, if it was a big hit, because the tires tend to bounce off of the curbs and tend to send you back into the track. So it's not always the smoothest of situations with curbs, at least here. So Grant's actually starting to lose a little ground to Del Piccolo. Del Piccolo having taken over first a few laps ago as they enter the stadium section. Grant may be just biding his time here. As long as he can keep his teammate in sight, he may still have a shot at the win. But Brabham's up front, not a surprise. McLaren's in third and fifth, not a surprise. Cars that are suited to this track and drivers who are suited to this track. Ray Riddall. I mentioned earlier, Ray was trying to get a better qualifying position, and he had a hellacious accident at the Österreichring, not Österreichring, at the Ost curve chicane, where the car just catched one of the barriers just a little wrong and flipped all over the place. It was really dramatic, and it shows you what can go wrong. We saw a little taste of it with what happened to John Team, but downshifting for that Oz-curve chicane can be very, very treacherous. You can see just ahead of this group, actually, Grant has closed down on his teammate now. We may see another pass for the lead here. Grant definitely moving quicker here than Del Piccolo. Heading down to the Oz-curve chicane. Don't want to try anything fancy here. Just get through it. There they go. No problems. But Grant seems to be getting it a bit closer now. Maybe Del Piccolo made a slight mistake. And news about Mark Whitman's DNF. He probably, well, what he says in the YouTube chat is he hit the wall and incurred a puncture. So there you go. That's what happened to Mark Whitman. But it's easy to forget, like in the forest here, the close confines. As Grant takes it very easily into the stadium section. They got another 2 cars to overtake up here. Ray Radal is in, and David Saber has overtaken Juha Boss. Let's see if we can catch this at all. Go back a little bit, see how this happened. It looks like it just happened on straight horsepower, but we'll confirm here by watching the replay. Do not adjust your set. We're just going backwards to see if we can get the, it looks like it might have happened before the Oz-curve chicane even. Let's have a look here. Going back a little further here. He might have just motored by before they got there. Let's see. Because you definitely don't want to be taking and overtaking. You don't want to try to overtake people before at the Oz-curve, but it looks like he might have motored on by on this straight here. Or prior, even. Good grief. Yeah, it looks like it was done on this straight here. Going backwards here. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what happened here. Yeah, there we go. Saber motors by on the outside to take fourth place. And it's interesting, we're seeing a lot of passes on the outside heading into the first chicane. And Juha's not losing much time there. Tim Hilla out of the race. Not sure what happened there. And it happened a while ago. We'll run it back here and see what happens here. This is the challenge of calling a race by yourself. You can't catch every single thing that happens. It's just impossible. Yeah, this happened a while ago, so unfortunately, the guy that started on the outside, John Team, making another pit stop. At this point, probably it's not going to cost him too much, but Tim Hilla started on the outside of the front row, and that ends in DNF. That's just too bad. So Schlipinski, Portiero, Apa, Sibignani, Oscar Team. And here we are with the leader, Del Piccolo. He's got more cars to lap as he heads into out of the stadium section. Looks like it's going to be a Zach Speed in front of him. It's Brian Janik as they head into the first turn. Now down the first straightaway that'll take him to the first chicane. Brian makes the room on the left, or on the right. And Gabriel sprints by. Yeah, Grant, that must have been a mistake on Gabriel's part that got Grant so close, because now that things are back to normal, Grant is further back. And in third place, Ray Radal. Fourth place is the other McLaren of David Saber. But look at this. Juha right with him here. Maybe trying to attempt an overtake before they get to this chicane. No, he's not going to do it. But he's definitely not taking that overtake lying down. There's a little bit of an awkward exit by Saber. Let's see if this could be the opportunity that Juha wants. Yeah, he's alongside. Oh my goodness, Saber. There was a little bit of an avenue there. It looks like Juha's going to try it again, but that is very, very dangerous on the outside there. Not enough room right there. Saber stays in fourth place ahead of Juha, who is fifth. Bouchard is still hanging around in sixth place, so don't count him out, especially when the pit stops come around. There's a minority up here they have to both deal with, but still a Brabham show up front with Ray Radal, the third place car. Fourth is Sabre, you're watching right now, and he is overtaking Dave Miller on the right-hand side. He was a bit of a closure right there, more than I would have thought. But in any case, it's a chicane, so you got to be ready for anything. Looking backwards now at Juha, you can see the distance there. But Juha seems ready to capitalize on any mistake that David might make. But excellent drive so far from the drivers at the front. It's 2 Brabhams and 2 McLarens up front here, with a Ferrari waiting in the wings in 5th place, and in 6th place is the first Lotus. So Lotus not having the race they would have liked to have had here, but it's definitely the race that the Brabham team and the McLaren team would love to have, because it's going to be not only good for the drivers, but great for the constructors' fight. Simon Watman also out of the race, unfortunately, in the, I believe he was in an Osella. Heading down the straightaway now. Ray Riddall is pretty much by himself in 3rd. Let's take a look at the gap between Del Piccolo and Grant Riddall. Between GDP and Grant Riddall is pretty much about the same, and then you have Ray coming along here. This is lap 17 we're working now, out of 44. Question is, when will the pit stops occur? Don't be surprised if they occur a little bit more ahead of halfway than you'd think, because there's less fuel load and the tires have less pressure on them. We'll see what happens. Sabre in 4th, and makes a little bit of a bobble there. Is that a chance for Juha? Maybe. He's still got quite a ways to go to catch up, but Juha in 5th place. He scored the lone point for Ferrari in the last outing at Brands Hatch. He scored 1 point for 6th, I believe. But bouncing off the curbs a little bit there, but you can see that Jules is back there. So it's the usual suspects up front, just not the order in which we're used to seeing them. Ray Riddall continuing on, very smooth, very clean. And look at this, here's Grant trying to get by Drexler. Slides by on the inside, dispenses with the Zach speed. And the gap between him and the leader is 3.6 seconds right now between himself and his teammate, Gabriel Del Piccolo. And Ray Riddall also has gotten past the Zach speed into this chicane. You start to wonder when mental fatigue is going. Oh goodness, Grant makes a big mistake exiting the chicane, and this is a chance for Ray. Can Ray overtake Grant? It looks like it's possible. Let's see. No, actually, he's further back than I thought, but that could have very nearly cost Grant 2nd place. But being the pro that he is, he did not compound the situation with more mistakes. If that was close, man. It shows you what happens when you bounce off a curb like that. It can be very serious. Heading into the next chicane here. Right, left. Yeah, Grant seems to have gotten his wits now about him and has forgotten that small mistake he made. He's got to get by Bruno Chacon here in the number 17 Barclay Arrows BMW. Well, you can't say Barclay here, so it's just Arrows BMW, or US F&G, let's call it that. He gets by cleanly there. The gap is increased now to his teammate, Gabriel. It's now 4.6 seconds, so Gabriel seems to be handling the traffic a little bit better than Grant is, or that could just be the result of that mistake we saw him make in the chicane. Back onto the pit straight one more time. Grant in 2nd place. 3rd is Ray Riddall. So it's a family affair at the front here with Del Piccolo in the P1 position. David Sabre is in 4th. 5th is Juha Boss. And that battle seems to have broken off between himself and David Sabre. Bouchard is in 6th. 7th is Richard Coxon. So don't be surprised if he scores points, because I'm sure we haven't seen the end of the attrition story, so to speak. So don't be surprised. If he drives a smooth race, he might find himself in the points for Benetton, and then it won't be as disastrous a day as it appears so far for the multicolored, united colors of Benetton. In 8th place is Centorami, and he had an excellent outing last time in the Tyrrell, and he is being followed by Rocha in 9th, but he's a little further back. In 10th place, Jonathan Asserclinth. And maybe we'll see him rise up the circuit a little bit, or up the standings. I'm not sure if he likes this place too much, but he's being followed closely by Anders Nilsson in the Haas Lola entry. 16th is, 12th is Brian Janik, and he gets through that. Wow, takes a lot of curb going through there, but he's okay. He's in 12th place. 13th, Ruben Fernandez. And he is about to get overtaken by John Team. John is way down the order in 20th place after making 2 pit stops following a accident at the 3rd chicane. 14th is Francisco Amaral, which is a bit of a disappointment because Francisco qualified 9th on the grid. You would have thought he would have had a little better performance so far. 15th, Bruno Chacon. 16th, Dave Miller, who is out of the race. Whitman continuing on here. He's actually not out of the race, but he's continuing on in 17th place. 18th is Mikael Drexler and the other Zach Speed. And then the first one out of the race, or the last one out of the race, is Tim Hillis. So Dave Miller happened relatively recently. Not sure what happened there. Let's see if we can go back and look. No, it's a ways ago, but unfortunately, it is no longer Miller time here at Hockenheimring. Whitman will eventually overtake him for 17th place. I thought Whitman was out of the race. Apparently, he's very good at typing and driving. There's Drexler, there's Team, all the way down 19th place, last car running after all the incidents. And there we see one of the cars in the pits already. I believe that is a Ferrari. It is. Boss is making his pit stop, exiting the pits now in 6th place. He's not going to lose a lot of track position, but he's definitely going to lose some time. So the pit stops have already started. That's the first one we've seen from the front runners. Juha Boss. That moves Jules Bouchard up to 5th place in his Lotus. 4th still is Sabre. 3rd is Radal. Grant is in 2nd, and his teammate Del Piccolo is in the lead. So we'll have to start watching this train of cars and see if any of them are interested in going in pits. Nobody's got a screw or a gear icon on yet, so that would tell me that they're not going to pits. In any case, it'll be interesting to see who goes into pits first in this group. They're very fast, very well adept to this circuit, but will they choose to go in pits at this point, or will they? You would think they would, because we're almost at halfway, believe it or not. We're starting lap 21, and in another lap we'll be at half distance. So you would think that a change of tires would be the case. Is there anybody here who is trying to do the race with no stops? That would be an interesting prospect. I doubt that's the case, but we'll definitely see as things progress. Right now I'm going to keep my eyes on the front of the field because I want to make sure that I catch anybody going into the pits. Boss 6th. Oh my goodness, Coxon off the road. Let's see a replay of this. What happened here? Coxon might have some kind of a problem with his car because he looked like he was kind of deranged there a little bit, but let's see how he... Yeah, something is not right. He misses that chicane. Oh, he was very lucky to not hit the wall there. He didn't hit the tires either, but that was a very lucky escape. This may be the opportune time for Coxon to change rubber. We'll see if he goes into the pits or not. He's coming into the area where he would choose to go into the pits if he wanted to. No, he stays out. You can see the pit road entrance in the background there. He's staying, not going another, or he's not going to go into the pits just yet. Our first pit stop from the front was with Juha Boss, and we saw it just incidentally. So now it's a question of, will any of the Brabhams go in, or either of them? And the McLaren's following. Okay, Sabre now has his gear icon in the corner there, which means he is intent on coming in the pits. For those of you who don't run Automobilista on a regular basis, sometimes this gear icon snaps on automatically and you're not interested in going to the pits. But you definitely have to call for a pit stop so that the team is ready. you to come in. If you come into the pits without telling the team that you're ready to come in, it takes longer. You actually lose time, a few more seconds than you normally would. But we can infer from this that David is definitely ready for his pit stop. He is now going to be going through that pit road. Let's see if we can get a look here at the tires that he puts on. Oh my goodness, he actually runs onto the grass there as he enters the pit lane, but let's have a look at what he puts on here. That's C compounds he's got right now. Oh, he misses his pit box. And as he comes up, it appears he's going to stick with the C compound tires on the front and the back. And there he goes revving up, so he leaves the pits in 5th place. Is he going to lose a spot to Juha? There comes Juha into the pit straight. It does not appear that that's a problem. No, David Saber is exiting ahead of, so he doesn't lose too much track position. That's good. Good for him. And there you see Juha appearing in the background. That elevates Bouchard to 4th place for the moment. Ray Riddall is still in 3rd. Grant Riddall still in 2nd, and his teammate leading, Gabriel Del Piccolo. So we'll see. He is not going into pits right now, and Grant doesn't appear to want to either. It would be interesting if that was the plan, if they were planning on doing no stops at all, but we'll have to watch. Janik is out of the race. See if we can get a replay of what happened to Brian here. Happened relatively recently. No, it happened a ways back, unfortunately. So, but I would wager it was some kind of contact. Now look at how busy things are getting here. Here's Jonathan trying to get some position here on Rocha, but there's some lapped cars intermixed here, and this makes things difficult. And it's not just any lapped car, it's John Team, who's not a slow car, so that makes things a little more hectic. But look at this, Jonathan looks like he's going to sprint by on the inside. Yes, he does. Ooh, very close quarters there, but Jonathan, oh, he goes on the grass for a minute and loses the position back to Rocha. My goodness. So he had the position there, but then he just ran on the grass, and you can see what happened. It just, suddenly it became not about maintaining position, but maintaining control. But Jonathan stays in the top 10 with his Ferrari. His teammate is in 6th after pit stops. Centorami in 8th. Oh my goodness, he has a big, big tank slapper coming out of the stadium section. And there is Coxon going into the pits. Richard Coxon coming in from 7th place to make his stop. Let's see what we got here. Super Softs are going on the car on the back and the front. He's going for Super Softs on both ends of the car. And there he goes, and it looks like Jonathan Asserclinth also making his stop at the same time. So that promotes Anders Nilsson to 9th, Rocha to 8th, and Centorami to 7th. Don't count out Centorami. He's done good in the Tyrrell so far. Juha Boss in 6th place. 5th is Saber. 4th Bouchard. Ray Riddall's in 3rd. Let's see if any of these cars come into pits. No. Del Piccolo stays out. So does Grant. And so does Ray, and we're now past half distance, which is surprising to me that the 3 of these wouldn't have pitted so far. But I guess the longer you can go before you change tires, the softer they can be. That's probably one of the strategies here. Bouchard is in 4th as he sprints past the pits, and here we have David Saber. Let's look on board here. He seems... he's inherited 5th place, largely due to the pit situation. He goes to the heading down the main straight now. But what we're really curious about is what's going to happen up at the front here. Del Piccolo heading for the Ost Curve chicane. No histrionics, no problem. Gets through just fine. So apparently Dave Miller had a barbecue situation, but we didn't see it on our screen at any rate. So Del Piccolo continuing now. This is lap 24 now out of 44, so 20 laps to go. Heading down the long straightaway here at the backside of the course into the stadium now. And his teammate, Grant Riddall. And neither of them are signaling pits yet, which is surprising. Ray, still not signaling pits. Neither is Jules Bouchard. Jules actually, whoa, I think his tires are starting to get to him here because he had a very sloppy exit there from the chicane. There he goes. And it looks like that's a back marker actually putting up all that dust. That can be another thing that'll throw you for a loop mentally if you're just going along and a back marker makes some kind of a strange move in front of you. That can really rattle your concentration. Oh goodness, a family request led to Portiero's departure. Well, real life trumps sim life, we know that. So, can't fault him for that. Del Piccolo already to the first chicane. And remember that we're watching all this unfold without any idea of, how hard the engines have been taxed so far. First, second, third are all very spread out. And then you have Bouchard, who's having to handle up a few cars here in the chicane. That is Whitman. Bouchard gets by on the outside. Next target is going to be Amaral, I believe. Yes. Piccolo has more traffic here to deal with as they come into the stadium again. And still no wrenches. There's still no gears. It'd be really interesting. I mean, we got David, who's, I believe, been in the pits, and so is Juha. So the top four have not been in the pits yet. We'll have to watch and see what they do. So it's definitely going to have a big impact on the outcome of the race. No pits this time for Gabriel, and no for his teammate Grant. So the Brabham show continues at the front. Olivetti, maker of typewriters, is the main sponsor in that car. Also timing and scoring equipment, I believe. Ray Riddall in third, looking very, very good in this race. Very smooth. And Bouchard, obviously not having the race that he would have wanted. He would have liked to have been at the top of the scoring pylon, but fourth place may be the best that he can do today in a situation where other cars are better suited to the track, it looks like. Down the straight now. Sabre actually running up in the curbs. He's not going to want to do that too much, but holding down fifth place. Sixth is Juha, and that is not a battle for position there between him and John. That's how far back Luciano is in seventh. So maybe another points finish for Lotus, not just Jules at the end of the day. We'll see what happens with the attrition. And then eighth is Nilsson. He's actually pretty close to, there's Luciano in front of him. So this could develop into a battle at some point here. Anders heading into turn one. That's how big the distance is. Not very big between those two. Coxon down to 9th, and Centorami is 10th. Jonathan Asserclinth 11th. Sabre has to get by Whitman here, who is having a bit of a hard time putting down the power out of the Ostkurve chicane. It is a bit of an odd place to put down the power because of the nature of the banking exiting there. You're at a low speed, and the car doesn't like it very much, and it can twitch back and forth if you're not careful. But Sabre stays firmly in fifth place. Oh no, Grant Riddall out of the race. Grant Riddall, I would guess that that's a barbecue, but this is a huge development for motor racing developments and for our race. Grant Riddall is out. And There is no engine sound, so barbecue is definitely what happened here. The engine gave up. Now, what does that say for Del Piccolo, who's leading? My goodness. Into the garage he goes. Yuha is still in 5th, 4th, Sabre. Jules moves up to 3rd. Okay, Ray Radal is now showing pit stop, and if we look ahead, we can't see Del Piccolo. Del Piccolo's too far down the road. He's 12.4 seconds ahead of Ray and his McLaren. So we'll have to watch very carefully here, see what happens. Ray has got 20 seconds between himself and Bouchard, but I don't think it's going to be enough to cover the position when he goes into the pits. So big development there with Grant out of the race. His engine just couldn't take it anymore. So it's not going to be the all Brabham show at the front that they would have liked, but the question now should be, what is the status of Gabriel Del Piccolo's engine? Is it in good trim? Is it on the verge of coming apart? So many, many questions still to be answered here. My, the plot thickens. I'm trying to make that my my catchphrase instead of like Jonathan's got "Oh dearie me." I'm trying to. I think my, the plot thickens will be mine. Maybe it's not the best one. We'll see. Anyway, we're anticipating a pit stop here from Ray Radal as he enters the stadium. Del Piccolo is still in the lead. And a very disconsolate Grant Radal, I would expect, is in the garage right now as Ray Radal, 2nd place, heads for the pit lane in his McLaren. Let's see what kind of a tire choice he makes and if he'll be able to get out ahead of oh my goodness, he runs out. That's the 2nd time we've seen someone do that. All right, so what do we got? It appears D-compound tires are going on, so not, and C's on the front, so an interesting combo there. Ray having trouble getting the power down. He doesn't want to blow the engine in the pits. But here comes Ray out of the pit lane, rejoining, and there is David. This should be interesting. David Sabre. I don't know if there are any team orders at McLaren, but Sabre very close here, could make a try on his teammate as Radal has just exited the pits. This promotes Jules to 2nd place, so he's back up to 2nd place again with that stop. But here's the situation. It's interesting. Ray has got cold tires. David Sabre has been out for a while on these, so he theoretically should have an advantage for a second, but not for very long. McLaren boys doing an excellent job today. Very calm race. A few like little tiny surprises here and there, but nothing really. They're running a very, very well engineered race here, running 3rd and 4th right now, and they're in a great place should something happen to the drivers at the front in terms of an engine going or something. They're definitely tactically in a very good position. So a very good race run by McLaren so far. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Radal slows down for a minute. That was strange. I'm not sure what precipitated that, and then David looked like he was trying to get by. That was odd. I'm not sure what that was about. In any case, Ray stays in 3rd, and David is definitely like, okay, what's the deal here? Can I make an attempt here? He's not sure of what's going on with his teammate here. David does not use the comms system that we have, and neither does Ray, so I don't think there's any kind of communication going on there between the two verbally over a radio, but David's staying right with his teammate there, and there's a yellow flag there. Car's in the pit lane. Jules is still in 2nd. Del Piccolo leads the race and has led it for some time by overtaking Grant Radal, and then unfortunately Grant Radal out of the race because of an engine failure, which is not unexpected. We thought we would see that in this race. So you got to wonder now about Gabriel's engine. Is he taking good enough care of it? We'll see. The only person who really knows the answer to that question is him. Bouchard in second place. All in third. McLarens have made their stops. I don't know. Maybe Gabriel's decided to go this race with no stops at all, because we're already up to 30 laps now. This is going to be lap 30 starting now, which means 15 laps to go until the finish. So he may have decided to just go the whole race with no stop. Jules is in second place by virtue of the fact that all the others in front of him had pitted. Let's look back here at this battle between... oh, there's an interesting situation. John Team has put himself between the two McLarens, and that is not a pass for position. He's actually several laps down. So... And clearly is faster in this case than the McLaren. So... obviously, the smart thing to do would be to just let him go. But he has put some distance now between Saber and Rayredal. So there goes that battle that we could have watched. Thanks, John. Del Piccolo continuing on, not letting anything deter his focus on what he needs to do. I think it's safe to say that the top two cars probably at this point are not going to stop. But there you see John Team in between the two McLarens. So that pretty much, that's unfortunate because that killed off a battle that would have been fun to watch. Juha is in fifth place. Sixth is Rocha, taking advantage of the retirement of Grant, and that brings him into the points paying positions. Seventh, and in the pits right now, is Nilsson, so he's making his lone pit stop for the race, we would assume. And there goes Asserclinth ahead of him into seventh place. So now Asserclinth is seventh, Coxon eighth, ninth is Centorami, so this could be interesting here. This is not for points back here, but it could very well turn into a points paying situation for one of these cars if somebody has a barbecue at the front. We'll see. Not that we would wish that in anybody, I'm just reporting possibilities. Speculation, you can call it that. Still, John Team is between the two McLarens. And Juha continuing on in fifth. Bouchard continues the lap. And Del Piccolo's got a huge, huge gap between himself and Bouchard. If he wanted to, he could probably pit and still keep the lead. He's 32 seconds away from Jules Bouchard. And then we have a slightly shorter gap, not slightly, quite a lot shorter, gap between Bouchard and Rayredal, 4.5 seconds. So that race is by no means over. And we saw in a few corners there where it looked as if Jules was having difficulty under braking, so his tires may be ready to say uncle. If that's the case, he's got two McLarens behind him that have made stops and have new rubber. So he may be, he's probably hoping that he can make those tires last, but we'll see what happens. Probably a good time to do the trivia question so that we don't have it getting in the way of anything happening in racing, because it seems to be calm for the moment here. So the trivia question was, Ferrari has won the German Grand Prix a record 22 times. Which constructor is second to Ferrari with 11 German Grand Prix wins? Is it A, Williams, B, McLaren, or C, Mercedes? Time is up, but we'll wait for people to put their answers on the forum here, or not on the forum, on the chat, the YouTube chat. Anybody have any ideas? Remember that you're taking into account the full history of the German Grand Prix. appear that anybody wants to take a shot here, at least not in the chat. Well, the correct answer, in fact, is Mercedes. And there you have all the years that they won. So that's the answer to the trivia question. Let's get back to competition now. Jules still in second place, 32 seconds behind the leader, Gabriel Del Piccolo. And you can see right there the problem that's going to develop for Jules. He's got McLarens starting to catch him. And I don't think, frankly, he's going to be able to hold them back. We'll see what happens. Here you see Ray Riddall getting bigger and bigger. So we're on lap 32 here, and when they cross the line, there will be 12 laps to go in the German Grand Prix. A very interesting race. It did not go as we might have expected. It didn't go the way that Benetton wanted it to, obviously. Oh my goodness! Ray Riddall has made a mistake at the chicane and has lost his front wing. That is terrible. He's going to have to come in now and make another stop, and that means that David Saber is going to move up into a podium position. Let's look at a replay of this. My goodness, you know what? It looks a lot like what happened to John earlier. And John's watching this and going, yep, I know what that feels like. Ray comes in, clips the barrier, loses the front wing. He was very lucky to recover the way he did. He didn't hit the barrier like John did. But here comes Ray. And he's going to have to make a pit stop to change that. You can't go around. There goes his teammate by. So David Saber is now in third place, podium position, taking advantage of the bad fortunes of his teammate. That's really too bad. Now he looks like a 1982 McLaren. But up go the stilts, and my goodness, that's really too bad. Very unfortunate. Yuha moves up to fourth place. This is obviously going to have big repercussions for points paying positions. Third is now Saber. Boss is fourth. There he is. And Ray is fifth, but he's not going to be there long. Luciano Rocha is going to come around and probably take fifth place from him. If he can get out of the pits ahead of him, it appears that's not going to be the case. Yeah, Rocha coming along. I believe that was... yeah, there is Ray leaving the pits now. So he only fell, actually, to sixth place. That's quite a small price to pay to fix a wing, if you ask me. Rocha is now in fifth. Fourth, Yuha Boss. Third, Saber. Second is Bouchard, and first is Del Piccolo, who's got a huge lead here. Really, it's his race to lose at this point by way of making a mistake or an engine letting go. But if I were him, I would be pedaling back on the engine at this point and trying to save as much of the machinery as I can, because as of now, 11 laps to go in the German Grand Prix. There's no need for him to drive at 11 tenths at this point. He's built up a nice cushion. Here's Bouchard. Bouchard's not even into the start-finish straight yet. That's the distance that there is. So after all of this, it looks like Bouchard might have had a pretty good... It looked like he was about to get eaten up by the McLarens, but then, of course, Ray had his problem. So that basically negated it. So because of that situation, if Bouchard can hold on for the next 11 laps, he might make filet mignon on a flank steak today, because it looked like he was not having a good time with the other drivers, fell steadily down the list. Turned out he had a strategy to not stop and advanced when everybody else did stop. So if he can stay ahead of the McLaren of Saber between now and the end of the race, then it was probably a very good bet. It turned out to be. I mean, obviously, he is helped by the fact that Ray Riddall had that incident at the chicane, but it's going to be another points-paying finish for our series leader. So that means that the other drivers are not going to close as much as they would have liked. But he still has to complete 10.5 laps here. It's not over yet. And there's still a question mark hanging over this car right here, because the sister car to this one, piloted by Grant Riddall, went out of the race with engine failure. We don't know how much Gabriel has been taxing his engine. He's been driving a fairly smooth race. We'll see what happens. But don't be surprised if something untoward happens to somebody at the front here. We don't wish it upon anyone, but just saying, could happen. Bouchard continuing in second. Third, Sabre. This is going to be an excellent result for him if he can keep going. Very smooth race. And I think this is another situation where you can say sometimes when we have these series, there's a really excellent marriage between driver and car. And certainly I think that's the case with David. He and this car get along very well. Same can be said for Ray, a just very unfortunate mistake on his part in the chicane. And Juha looks like he's set up for a really good finish in fourth here. There's only 1 point scored by Ferrari in the last race, but definitely something to keep in mind. Car updates, we didn't actually get to these, but I can talk about them a little bit now. Ones that might have made... there were no major changes to the Lotus this time around, except removing the vertical aero deflectors behind the front wheels for less drag. Interesting here, for Germany, Porsche, which manufactures the engines for McLaren, had new turbochargers and fuel systems, and finally a proper qualifying engine, together with bigger radiators. So that could be a factor in why they're doing so well. For Brabham at Germany, the rear edge of the side pods, previously curving down, were leveled to increase exit by 4 centimeters and improve the airflow. The cars ran with no winglets at the rear of the side pods to give better straight line performance. For Germany, Ferrari had the wheelbase reduced, which seems to me to be the wrong way to go for this case, but in any case, the weight was moved more towards the rear and the underbody was shortened. So those are some key differences. In terms of horsepower, the major difference is with the Ligier team and the McLaren team. Qualifying jumped a considerable amount from McLaren, from 856 to 893 horsepower, and then in the race it's from... Oh wait, sorry, I got these backwards. Qualifying got all the way up to 1,058. That was a huge increase for McLaren, because it was only 856 before. And Ligier got a small increase, 1,118 to 1,153. So those could be factoring into here, but the gap between first and second is holding steady as we are now sub 10 laps to go here. Del Piccolo, really all he has to do is just, there's no real reason for him to drive. Oh my goodness! Del Piccolo runs off the track! He makes a mistake at the Ost curve chicane. This is not going to be a high cost mistake because luckily there was runoff there. Oh my goodness, so that'll have gotten Del Piccolo's attention. If he was having highway hypnosis, that would have snapped him awake. Let's take a look at a replay of that. See what precipitated this. Coming through this, it looks like it might have... Yeah, he ran off onto the grass and it was just enough. He did a masterful job of keeping the car under control and got back onto the tarmac. Of course, not losing the lead because of the massive... Actually, it's interesting. Bouchard is still... we'll have to see what happens here once Gabriel enters the stadium section. The timing looks like it's a bit screwy right now. We'll see what happens here. It's still around 32 seconds, so even with that small error, he is still about the same amount away from Jules as he was before. Okay, now here is where things get interesting. Jules, of course, had a different strategy than everybody else. Here comes the other McLaren. Ray Riddall was attempting to get close to Bouchard and pass him for second place, but then had his own calamity in the chicane. Now the question is, can Jules hold off Sabre? If I were a betting man, I would say no. We'll see what happens here. The very reason that Jules is in second place is because everybody else pitted, but that may turn out to be not the best situation because Sabre is in third. he knows that there's already one Brabham out of the race, and he knows that if he can get ahead of Jules here in second place, he could potentially be in a situation as he goes by on the inside. It's already happened. Sabre is now up to second place, and Jules Bouchard down to third. So it's just sails right by. So I very much doubt that Jules will be able to counterattack. The next car in line is Boss. It appears that Jules has enough room to possibly keep the podium position, assuming nothing else happens to the car. But Sabre very firmly taking control of second place. A great day for him, driving for McLaren in the Alain Prost car, the one that ran out of fuel famously. Hopefully the same thing will not happen to him. That's the other thing. We've been talking about engine failures. We forgot about the, oh goodness, Anders Nielsen out of the race. There's another retirement. That was not within the top 6, so it doesn't really change the order there. But that's too bad, because Anders has had some great drives in that Lola Ford. Not today, unfortunately. Sabre continuing in second place, and you can see now how Bouchard's falling backwards. He just can't counterattack. Probably a combination of fuel saving and the fact that Sabre is just on better tires at this point. Now here's something interesting. The gap between the leader, Del Piccolo, and David Sabre has dropped considerably. It is now down to 20 seconds. So somewhere in the space of that incident that happened at the Ost curve and where we are now, Del Piccolo... Is he out of the race? Del Piccolo is out of the race! He is DNF! I don't know what happened there. Del Piccolo, it looks like it was a simple disco. Looking at a replay, yes, it's a disconnection. Del Piccolo out of the race. That's incredible. And into the lead goes David Sabre for McLaren. Incredible. Not the way we would have expected things to go at all. But it appears a technical malfunction with the hardware has given David Sabre the lead of the German Grand Prix. This is the driver who won the first race of the year in Brazil. And he looks very well placed to take his second win of the year, provided the machinery keeps going. He's got Jules Bouchard behind him, but he is not in a position to challenge at this point. Third now is Juha Boss. Fourth, Gabriel Del Piccolo, but he is going to be going down the order, and Ray Radal, who had to stop to change the nose cone of his car, get new wings on the front, is potentially looking at a podium finish here. Actually, not a podium finish. That puts him into fourth now, sorry. But Rocha, this is interesting, is you got two Lotai finishing in the points here, potentially. As Rocha is now to fifth place. Sixth, Jonathan Asserklint. I told you, don't count him out. Do not count out Johnny Aces, and there he is, picking up the crumbs off the table, and he is in sixth place, so it's a good day for Ferrari. A good day for McLaren, it turns out, although there was that incident with Ray. But we all thought there was a possibility that the Brabham would not last to the end, but we didn't think it would be because of a hardware failure. We thought it would be a barbecue or something else. But Sabre comes through, and he's got a gap of 4.2 seconds on second place, Jules Bouchard. So it's his race to lose at this point. David Sabre, a guy that does so much behind the scenes at ISO in terms of modeling cars. In fact, I've been working on a little project with him, which I won't tell you about. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes already that we're getting ready for the next season, 2024. He and I are partnering on getting something working, but he's always, he's famously said to us that mods are never finished. And he's correct. There's always improvements that can't be made. But here he is. It's really a thrill to see him enjoying racing. He does so much behind the scenes, but it's great to see when someone who does so much work behind the scenes actually also has success on the track. But Sabre here, hopefully for him, he is hoping that he can just coax this car home and not have a repeat of what happened in real life to this car with Alain Prost, who ended up having to push it in the style of Ralph De Palma to the line. Jules is not going to come away empty-handed in this race if he can keep going. He's got a second place here. And Juha in third, so the Tifosi will be happy with the podium finish. Ray, despite his having to stop for a new front wing, is in fourth place. I would not have expected that, but sometimes the distances at the Hockenheimring make finishes like this possible, even though you have had to stop for repairs. Rocha in fifth place. And this is for position. He's overtaken Asserklint here. No, that's not an overtake. This is actually Asserklint getting closer to him. So there's a battle here for fifth place. And I would think that Johnny Aces is a better car. He's looking for room here to get by, but he doesn't have it on the inside. Stays right with him, my goodness. Using the chrome horn almost there. Careful, Johnny. But this is definitely not a settled score here. We'll see what happens. But what a surprise this race has turned out to be. We knew that attrition would be a problem at the front for the cars that were taxing themselves at the limit. But Sabre exiting the Ost-Curve chicane, and now also Bouchard. Bouchard staying in contact with him, but really, unless something calamitous happens to David Sabre, I don't think he has a chance of closing that gap. We'll see. It is now 4 seconds. Juha exiting the Ost-Curve chicane 2. And Ray Riddall soldiering on in the second McLaren. These two are running nose to tail for a good chunk of the race. And Johnny Aces is now in fifth place, very firmly has taken fifth place away. Oh my goodness, he runs on the grass there. That was under braking, but he manages to hold on, driving Stefan Johansson's Ferrari. And it looks like he's pretty firmly ensconced in fifth place here. So 2 top 5 finishes for Ferrari are waiting in the wings here. This is very good performance from them. And Rocha, who doesn't often find himself in points-paying positions, is potentially taking home a point here for Lotus in 6th, which is fantastic. Coxon in 7th place is probably waiting for somebody to have something go wrong at the front, but a very good drive from the back, or from the middle of the field, I should say, for Benetton. Oh, no! Oh, there goes the engine. Coxon out of the race, the telltale black smoke. Oh, and you can hear the flames licking. These BMW engines are not long for this earth a lot of the time. And Coxon out of the race. That's just too bad. That will promote, as they come by, Giovanni Centrami into 7th. And that's Ruben Fernandez. That's actually not a battle for position. Wait a minute, I think there might be something. Is there something wrong with Centrami's car? There is. Centrami's lost a front wing. So this presents an interesting problem. Does he go into the pits now with only 5 laps to go and fix that wing? I don't know, because behind him, Coxon, but then there's Amaral. Amaral touches the grass for a second there. So really, I don't know if Giovanni decides he wants to limp around without that front wing, but that's definitely going to be slowing him down. So the gap actually has come down now. The gap between Sabre and Bouchard is 2.5 seconds. It could be attributed to traffic, but it could also be attributed to lift and coast. Sabre may be trying to limp his way to the line. 3 laps to go, 42, 43, and 44, as they head now onto the straight that leads into the forest. But definitely, Sabre is having to fuel save a bit, it looks. So that it's not over yet. Heading down to the first chicane, and Sabre is most definitely having to backpedal just a little bit. And Bouchard might be licking his lips here and going, maybe that strategy of mine is going to pay off after all. We'll have to wait for the next timing beacon to see what it is, but you can see for yourself that Bouchard is closing. Yes, he definitely is closing. Has Sabre walked himself into a situation where he has to fuel save here, and maybe that will cause him to have to give up the lead. I don't know. It looks really precarious right now. Both cars make it through the Ostkurve chicane with no problem. They have to do it 2 more times. Oh, goodness. The gap is down to 0.7 of a second now, so clearly Sabre is finding himself in a situation similar to Prost's situation. He has to fuel save to get home. He is not letting Bouchard close by choice, believe me. He's looking at that fuel gauge, and he's making sure that he has enough to traverse the next 2 laps into the stadium section. Little more room now, 1.2 seconds, but definitely Bouchard must be really, really licking his chops right now and going, I think I have a chance here to possibly steal a win. What an exciting German Grand Prix this has been. All kinds of action from start to finish. A very tactical race. I hope you've all been enjoying it on YouTube. I had the rare occasion here of calling it all by myself. I hope I've done a good enough job, but it's been a lot of fun for me to watch. I can say that. Hopefully you will too. Oh no! Oh, Bouchard has run off the track. Bouchard ran off the track, and that will cost him some time, and that is a gift. That is manna from heaven for David Sabre. That may be all he needs to get home. My goodness. So now the gap is up to 2 seconds. Now the question is, can Sabre get home with that 2-second gap? I mean, obviously he's still in fuel save mode. It's clear because the gap has been coming down, down, down. But we'll have to watch very, very carefully here. And there's other cars that could be in fuel saving situations here. Yuha seems to be okay. Ray seems to be all right. And Johnny Ace is up to 5th now. He very decisively took that position away from... Oh, Rocha is out of the race. Rocha out of the race. What happened here? Is it fuel? Is it engine? It could have been one or the other. But Rocha's out of the race. That's so unfortunate because he had a points-paying position on the plate. And now that means that Giovanni Sederami is going to score points for Tyrrell if he stays where he is. I told you, the midfielders, they can pick up the crumbs here when things go wrong at the front. And that's exactly what's happening here. Eventually, that position will be taken by Centorami. Ray Radal in 4th place. Juha Boss in 3rd. 2nd, Bouchard starting to close again. This time there will be starting the final lap of the German Grand Prix. Can David Sabre coax that car to the line ahead of Jules? We'll see. Coming off for the final turn. Final lap starting now of the German Grand Prix. Coming into the first turn is David Sabre and Bouchard. Right behind him in 2nd place, it's 0.7 of a second. I think it's fair to say that Bouchard would have been by him already had he not had that problem in turn 1 on the lap ago. There he goes. Bouchard takes the lead of the German Grand Prix. Sabre has to save fuel, apparently. And Bouchard goes to the front on the final lap of the race. Downshifting now for the first chicane. Now, can Bouchard get it home without any problem? Sabre definitely is not in a position now to counterattack because he's shown that he has... Well, what's this? Now he might be looking to counterattack, but he's got fuel issues, probably. It has all the hallmarks of that from what we've seen. But Bouchard has made the decisive pass. Now, can Sabre... Now, oh my goodness, Bouchard has a problem! And there goes Sabre by into the lead! Sabre leads the German Grand Prix again! Another incident by Bouchard, but Bouchard's coming back at the inside, and he retakes the lead. If it weren't for these small incidents that Bouchard has been having in the last few laps, he would have been, oh my goodness, Sabre looks like he's trying to counterattack here. This is not over yet. They're going into the stadium section next. If it weren't for the problems that Bouchard were having, he probably would have been off in the sunset a long time ago. But now, Sabre, now it looks like there's lap traffic involved here. This could be a problem. Oh, is Sabre going to try to use a boxed-in situation here? Oh, my goodness! Slowed up a lot by the lap car there is Bouchard, but it does not appear that it will be enough for Sabre to counterattack. What an incredible race this has been as they come off of the final turn, heading towards the start-finish line. And by the smallest of margins, there it is. Jules Bouchard wins the German Grand Prix, and second is Sabre. At least he got to the line. That's better than can be said for the real-life situation. Juha Boss is in third place. Ray Riddall coming along in fourth. Now, hopefully he has enough fuel to make it to the end. He's going into the third chicane. My goodness, what a race. That was incredible and a very difficult situation for David because he had to save fuel. But Jules kept having instances of going off the track there. And if he hadn't had those, it probably would have been a lot further of a distance from first to second. But in any case, what an exciting finish. And here comes Ray. This gives you an idea of how far behind he was. 59 seconds, in fact, behind Juha Boss. Coming into the start-finish area, Ray with a fine finish in fourth place. It's a great day for McLaren, a second and a fourth. And it's going to be a good day for Ferrari, too. Here comes Jonathan Asserclinth off the final turn, finishing in fifth for Scuderia Ferrari. So a third place and a fifth place for Ferrari. Excellent for them. And Centorami will take home the final point for Tyrrell in sixth place. Great performance from him. Seventh, Francisco Amaral. So he ended up getting back up into the top 10. And after all, eighth for Luciano Rocha. Ninth, Ruben Fernandez. 10th, Mr. Reliable, Bruno Chacon brings home a top 10 finish for the Arrows team. That's a BMW engine. So that goes to show you that they can make it in this race. 11th, Richard Coxon out of the race. And these are all retirements, I believe, except for John Team. Gabriel Del Piccolo, Mark Whitman, Anders Nilsson, Grant Riddall, Brian Janik, Mikael Drexler, Dave Miller, Tim Hilla, Simon Wattman, Cesarius Lipinski, Fernando Potiero, who had family obligations, Dario, Matthew Sibignani, and Oscar Team was the first car out. Our winner the last time out, unfortunately, has to be the first retirement here. So that was the German Grand Prix, a very exciting race. We're going to wait and see here if anybody decides to go into the green room. There's nobody in the green room yet. But while we are waiting, I will remind you that the next race for this series is coming up on July the 9th. It is the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring. This is a very different circuit from this one. It's an amphitheater type situation, but very, very hard to overtake at this circuit. It definitely will present a problem for the drivers at the front. Well, everybody really, but that's on July 9th. It's round 11 out of 16. The race will start at 2000 CEST. And we already had the trivia question. So we will wait a moment here, see if anybody wants to come into the green room. But a fantastic race. And it turned out in the end that that Jules Bouchard had made the right gamble. He was gambling that something might happen to the people at the front, and it turned out that was the case. This is going to bolster his championship, obviously. But there are others who finished well in the race, so the championship is definitely not out of their reach yet. But we'll see how things go when we get to Hungary. So nobody is in the green room, so I guess that's a pretty clear indication that nobody's interested in talking. So we will just end the broadcast there. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And hopefully I did a good enough job as a single commentator, but thanks everybody for watching. This is Jason White saying so long from the Hockenheim Ring. We'll see you next time at the Hungaroring. Everybody take care and be safe.